All right, guys. Welcome to this week's Kings in Council. I'm super excited about this one. Over the next few minutes, hopefully, some of you will come in. I see you, Eric. Um, one of the things with this week, this concept that we've been talking about, right? Building on last week, right? The mentality that we have, and then this week going into the emotions. One of the things that's important is to realize how quickly we can shift out of negative emotions and into empowered emotions. This has been one of the most valuable things for me to learn in my whole journey as a therapist and just as a man. And it takes training, it takes practice. There's principles that I understood for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before I really knew how to implement them in my life. And I kept getting stuck in the same old patterns. And so a little bit today, I want to talk about this concept called a false lift. And I've seen this concept in my own practice. And recently I was in another group that I follow with a coach. And he talked about this principle that he also sees, and it made me think that this is a really valuable thing for us to look at. And this concept of a false lift, I'll describe that in just a second, but I want to kind of talk about this thing that I see in our lives, in our relationships, especially. Right, we kind of start like, let's say this is 0, right, and let's say like happy, good life, feeling good about ourselves, feeling on top of our game is like, 8, 9, 10 is pretty good. Maybe you define what 9 and 10 is for you. And maybe we don't constantly live in 10, but 10 is that place where certain things happen. Maybe it's intimacy in your marriage. Maybe it's, a really great experience with your kids. Maybe it's you're on top of your game with work, whatever, right? But we get to define what these areas are that are like the pinnacle, the top, right? And so what happens is sometimes we're down here at like this 0, like maybe we're even feeling like we're in the negative, right? What happens is people will work hard and they'll get to this space of like 4, 5, 6. I've described this before as people will do enough to get out of pain, but they won't do enough work to actually get where they want to go. So, right, a lot of people live down here in these different places, 1, 2, 3, 4, striving to get to like 5, 6. It's okay. It's actually even pretty good, 7. And they get here and then they lose momentum. They lose patience. They feel frustrated that they're not where they want to be. And oftentimes I see this in relationships. I've seen this in my own relationship. It's like, I really want to be at this 8, 9, 10 place where there's affection, there's intimacy, whatever. And then I get frustrated and I crash it down, right? This was especially true when I was struggling with addiction and trying to get into recovery. So I would work really hard, and then I'd be like, why can't we just connect? Why can't we be intimate? Why can't we be close? Why can't you trust me, right? And I get frustrated and get angry and crash it down again. So I always felt like I was making this really good progress. And I was working, but I was never doing the work to get to like where I really wanted to be. And so when I was watching this training session the other day with this coach, he talked about this concept of he calls it the false lift. His name's Garrett White. He's a guy that I follow quite a bit and really like his stuff. And he says, we do this pattern where we work really, really hard and we get to this place, we crash it down. We work really, really hard, we crash it down. This can be in every area of life. And the idea here, the principle that we want to get to is going, I need to work past where I've ever worked before. Now, some of you might be at the bottom, some of you might be at your top, but you've never taken it to that next level. And one of the concepts for me that I'm really working at is taking it to the top in all areas. So there's been times in my life where I've been super physically fit. I was running Spartan races a few years ago. I weighed the weight I wanted to weigh. I was eating healthy for several years in a row. Like that part of my game was like good, right? It's like living at this 9, 10 place, energy, all that good stuff, right? There's been times where I've been doing really well with my work, with finances, with our budget, whatever. There's been times where my marriage has been really good in different aspects of my marriage. There's been times where my spirituality has been really good. My parenting has been really good. My mental, emotional health has been really good. But it's been really difficult to get all those at the same time, right? Because they require energy, they require effort. And what can happen is we get unbalanced. So we put too much energy here, and then we go, oh, we got to run over here, and now we neglect this. And I remember maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe, I don't know, 6, I don't know. I switched from a clinic I worked at in Las Vegas to a clinic in Utah County. And my schedule completely shifted, and my routine that had worked for years got shifted. And I wasn't working anymore, but I was working different. And I abandoned my exercise routine. I went from being able to run a half a marathon without stopping, like I was in good shape. I had been doing some Spartan races, and I went from that to like gaining like 25 pounds in like 3 months or something ridiculous like that. And it's because I stopped having time. I didn't stop having it. I stopped prioritizing time to make food, time to exercise, and I gained weight. And we've all done these different types of things, right? And so I've seen this numerous times in my marriage as well, where we've been doing really well. And I've even had this thought of like, hey, this is it. Like, we've got it. And then some other area of life needs attention, and we neglect those things that are working, and it slides down. And I think to some degree this is normal, but our goal is to not let it slide all the way down, especially to where it's like that self-destruction. We're burning it all down, and now we got to build it back up again. So the reason I'm bringing this up this week is as we're talking about emotional states, one of the coolest things I learned about emotions is if you think about this, I learned this in a Tony Robbins training. Everything we do is to try to shift our emotional state. So just think about that for a minute. Why do you turn on the television? What are you kind of hoping to get? Why do you be kind to your wife? Why do you go play basketball with your buddies? Why do you go fly fishing in the wilderness? Why do you like airplane flying? Like whatever your things are, what are you trying to do? You're trying to shift your emotional state. And we're not always trying to shift it to power. Like I have, for example, music that I listen to that connects with parts of me that are more, maybe more somber, where there's been maybe some pain in my life. That music is comforting because it matches that emotional state. I have this playlist actually that when I know I'm kind of in a sadder spot, I start this playlist and it kind of starts matching that mood. And actually the songs progress towards a better, kind of more confident, happy state. And in the process of that playlist, I go from here and my mood starts to shift with the music. And music, as you've seen, is one of the quickest ways to shift our mood. So often though, what we do is just what I said. We get music that matches our mood instead of music that can shift our mood, okay? That's just a side tangent there. And so as you've been going through this week, right, we did anger, sadness, fear. Yesterday we did hurt, pain. Later today, actually during this meeting, I'm going to do the guilt and shame one. These are kind of the five, six, guilt and shame sometimes get lumped together, kind of core emotional states that people get stuck in, right? Sadness progresses into depression, right? Fear. So often we talk about anxiety, but when you take out fear, anxiety is much easier. And so as you keep working, and my recommendation is you do these releases often. If you practice, for example, like if I'm pretty prone to anger, and you work through anger the way that I've showed you with these release processes, if you do that for a month, you will find that you're going to anger much less often. And what's happening here is we're retraining the way that your mind sees the external world. So some of you have heard this example. I did this process where I used to honestly get out of control pissed off when my daughter was 4 at the time. She would flip out, and there was no stopping her. Like Disneyland, she's in the bathroom floor, flailing on the ground. She's running out of the house at bedtime and running down the street, and just there was nothing that could console her. And it brought up all this crap in me. And what it brought up for me was I'm a bad dad. And something in her childhood is like, I messed up. That was the thing that was coming up for me, which might have been true. I mean, when she was born, I was struggling through addiction recovery, and I don't know how present and able I was able to be there. I was trying, but I don't know. So that stuff would come up for me a lot. And I ran through this process a few times, specific to my daughter, of like, why is this anger here? And I was able to train my mind to see that, right, external event, daughter flips out. I'm viewing it, the message I'm taking from it is I'm inadequate, I suck, and I don't like feeling like I suck, and so I'm angry. Stop making me feel like I suck. Stop yelling, stop running away, right? And then I'm getting upset at a 4-year-old, right? And around we go. And so I worked on this, and I tried to release the anger and like, what's going on for me in this moment. And what I was able to see was, you know what, maybe this is a result of how I was. But if I stay angry at her in response, it's just going to perpetuate itself, right? And I trained my mind to see this differently. And so she's almost 8 now, and she flips out less often, which is part of, right, me being intentional in my wife and whatever. But if she does, I'm not managing. Like, I'm not going, oh, I've learned some coping tools. I'm flooded out of my mind, but I'm not going to react. I'm not going to get pissed. Like, those tools are fantastic. But what we're after here is what happens for me in this situation. She flips out, and nothing happens for me. I don't flood. I don't trigger. There's not this like, you're a worthless, stupid dad. Like, none of that goes on. Okay. I have situations like that with my wife. And the cool thing is, I have an awareness in the moment. This situation that's happening would have messed me up. Like, it used to wreck me. And here's how I used to respond. I used to get insecure. I used to feel afraid. I used to nitpick. I used to criticize. I used to blame. I used to start a fight. And then it would progress to here. And then it would crash down. Then I would feel justified in relapsing, right? And so I worked on this pattern. And there's situations that could come up where we're stressed out, or my wife's not on our game, or I'm not on my game, and we start to get into something. And I'm able to like emotionally, mentally step back and go, I have a choice here. I can go down this path, or I can go down this path. This path, I know where it leads. It's destruction, it's disconnect. This path is reconnection, repair, closeness, friendship, right? And so what we're after here is creating an emotional home for ourselves that is awesome. Not a lot of people believe that they can feel awesome most of the time. And it's not to say that emotions don't hit you and things don't happen, but like knowing how to go, hey, I'm not feeling awesome. What's going on so I can get back there? So we're there much more often is pretty powerful. And so I learned another thing from a therapist that I respect, Maurice Harker. He talks of this concept, he calls it the satanic spin. He comes from this spiritual background and saying how the adversary can tempt us, can trigger us. And then he's whispering thoughts to us that create emotions, that create behaviors, right? So in this principle of his, right, he says that he has this scale. 0 is, I'm like, I feel good, I feel awesome, right? -1 is there's some thoughts going on that aren't good. -2 is there's some emotions going on. It's -3, I start to like get flooded. I get that chemical dump that we talked about, right? Then level 4, we start to think about behaviors that aren't in line with our values, whether it's anger, maybe it's numbing, looking at porn, drinking alcohol, whatever it is, right? And then at 5, that's when we take that step into the negative behavior. And then all sorts of things can happen at -6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? So we want to start to get an awareness of, when am I not feeling awesome? Like, that should be the baseline. Do I wake up and I'm feeling crappy already? Okay, I got to go like, what's going on? How do I get myself into a better spot? We wake up, we go, okay, I feel awesome. I'm going to do some things that help me keep feeling awesome. I'm going to get in tune with my day. I'm going to get into confidence. I'm going to get into, intentionality, that kind of thing. And if we're awesome, right, then we can build up. I feel awesome. I'm going to go for it, right? I got these positive thoughts going on. I believe in myself. I get confidence, I get empowerment, we're at +2 now. Then, right, I start to go, what am I going to do? Right, I have the power, I have the energy to go. And then same thing, we can go up the scale. Okay, so I hope this is making sense to you guys. So when we do these little breakthrough things, there's actually a full breakthrough process that I do. It's typically like a 10-hour process. Some of you have experienced it. Some of you have experienced it at Rise Week, where it's broken into those 4 days. But the whole goal here is we dig up everything that has created your emotional and mental patterns, right? So last week, limiting beliefs, this week, emotions. And this week we're taking little areas of life, right? I each time encourage you, think about your marriage or your business or right, whatever, these different doing a little exercise specific to that. The breakthrough process actually takes up all aspects of life at once. And we work through those emotions in all those states. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my own growth. And I've done a lot of cool things. And because I've done some of those breakthroughs, now I just do these little doses of them, just like we're doing. I often do these little kind of breakthrough processes that I've created or that some mentors have taught me. And it trains our mind to think differently, to see the world differently, to enter in from a different emotional state. And one of the things that I started to want and why I built the platform that I did and this program was I knew all the things up here to shift myself, but I couldn't guide myself in the moment always. I needed something to train me. And that's why I started creating these recordings and exactly what you're experiencing, I started to do for myself on a regular basis where I could go in and just hear my own voice guiding me. And so right now you guys are being guided by me. In the future, what I want to do is help you create some things that are specific to you, okay? And developing that ability where you can do it on your own. And so now, because I've done it enough, I can go and I can sit, and I actually have a little mat over there that I meditate. And in the morning, I can just get into state. I can see the day in front of me. And there's times at night where I release the day. And I'll share some of that with you as we go throughout the program. I spend about 5-10 minutes and I just reflect on the day and I release any negative. I process through it. I go to sleep feeling in a good place. I wake up feeling in a good place. Okay, that's what we're after here. And I don't want to, because I've seen this 1,000 times where, right, someone has a tool or a technique or a program and they're like, this is the thing. Like, this is one size fits all. It's the magic pill. And I don't want to preach that. This program, this system, these things that we're doing are meant to help you get in charge of you, where you know what you need, where you go, hey, you know what, here's what's available with Austin, and that's going to be helpful. And then I also have this other part of my life that helps me, my hobbies, music, people, videos you watch, whatever. Like, this program is about you becoming you having self-leadership. And so I have access to tons of different tools that I've paid for, that I've learned, and I decide which ones I want to use and when, right? That's part of where we're going here. And so as you've learned to release these emotional states, you may notice other things coming up. You may notice like, hey, it doesn't feel like it's finished completely. That's all right, right? We've done these 5, 10, maybe 15-minute exercises on years of carrying these emotional states. And so the way that I see this, you guys probably have caught on that I like to hike, I like to backpack, I like to adventure. And so my mind goes to these types of analogies. So I envision, right, I'm starting on a trail and it's like this this groove trail, this deep ruts, and it's very clear where the trail goes, right? And you guys have all seen this where you're hiking and then somebody took like an offshoot, right? It's like a vague trail. It's like a light trail, right? And it's like, oh, is that a trail? And you're walking, it's like, where'd it go, right? So imagine, like, right, this trail is the way that we've been thinking, the way that we've been feeling. And there's these trails in everything we do. Trails in our marriage, trails in the way we interact with money, our trails with God, our trails with, right? And a lot of us, what we do is we're like, I want to change the path. And so, right, we make a plan and we start on the trail. I'm getting healthy, man. Boom. Yeah, oh, man, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to I'm going to exercise, I'm going to eat healthy, whatever. I'm going to read my scriptures every day, whatever it is, right? And we start that trail, but it's not an easy trail because it's never been blazed before, or it hasn't been blazed completely, right? How many of you have like deep ruts for like, I don't know, 7, maybe 15, maybe 20 days, and then it just ends in like numerous areas of life, right? We all have those things. So what we need is we need the emotional and mental energy to go, I got to blaze a new trail. I got to blaze it till I blaze it, carving a path to the new future. And so the way this works is I've been taking this old trail mentally, emotionally, maybe behaviorally for a long, long time. I want to take a new path, and I got to walk that path again and again and again and again and again and again. This is just as clear and easy as a route as this. And we want this one on the unconscious level to become the new default. Okay. So the way that I've experienced this and seen this with people I've worked with is after we walk this path for a long time, this new one, right? What happens is when we start in a journey, especially when we're facing hard things, the mind has an awareness of both paths. Like I mentioned earlier, right? With situations with my wife, I can go this way and it leads to not where I want to be. Or I can go this way and it leads to where I want to be, right? Hope I'm making sense with this, okay? So if you think of like the pathways in your brain, these emotional, mental patterns, like we're retraining the mind. Some people call it reprogramming. I don't know how much I love that because I kind of feel like a robot, okay? But take what you want, right? We have this kind of internal operating system, and we consciously want to do something different, but we've been training ourselves to do the same path of least resistance typically, even if that includes some pain along the way. And so there's a quote that you guys saw, I believe, yesterday. And I've heard that quote expanded on, but I don't know who expanded on it. And I actually like the expanded version, but it says, in essence, right, we have two choices, and both of them lead to pain. There's the pain of regret and there's the pain of discipline, right? I've walked the path of regret many, 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 many times in my life. And I've also learned to walk the path of discipline in different areas of life. And I'm still working on learning to walk the path of discipline simultaneously in different areas of life, which means we have to take a step back from some of the things we do because we can't do everything all at once. And so currently I'm in a phase in my life where wanting to build the Rise and revamp Rise Week and do some different things with you men, I've had to like really look at like, where does my time, what time do I have? And what are the things I can do and can't do if I really want to, build this movement, this brotherhood, and keep my marriage intact, keep my parenting intact, keep my spirituality intact, get my physical health in a good place. And, you guys can't totally see me, but last year I gained quite a bit of weight over stress and some financial things and not focusing the way I wanted to. Right. And so a lot of times we get discouraged and depressed, and then that keeps us stuck. And so in this journey, right, we're only in week 2. We're talking about emotions and going, man, what has my emotional home been? Maybe you have several emotional homes and you kind of go back and forth between, I live in fear a lot, but I also really like my summer home in anger. Like I just like to go between those two, right? Occasionally I go visit sadness, and actually I forgot, probably, I don't know, 95% of the time I'm also thinking about my home in shame, right? Like, does this resonate with any of you? Okay. And so we got to decide we're going to have a new home. I don't want to live in these painful places anymore. And in the meditation yesterday, one of the things I mentioned, one of the things I talked about is the pain of our past. It's not present anymore, right? Like we're not living in those same situations, a lot of us. Now, maybe you have some present day pain. I mean, obviously a lot of us do, but that present day pain is often, it's almost like heaped upon by the stuff of the past. It's like the stuff of the past never got dealt with. This stuff from the past never got dealt with. This never got dealt with. And now I'm going through this and it's just like, it's too heavy. It's overwhelming, right? And so what we want to do is we want to work to release the past and process through it, like we started yesterday. And then we also want to have the empowerment for like, what am I going through today that's painful, that's hard? Now, some of you, many of you are facing really big challenges. Some of them aren't going away, right? And it's getting to a spot of going, okay, I have this situation and it sucks and I don't like it. Maybe I can change it, maybe I can't, but how do I face it? Do I want it to knock me down all the time? Do I want to stay angry and pissed off and, resentful and afraid and filled with shame and depressed and anxious all the time? Like, maybe it makes sense that you would feel that way, right? So life's not fair. It's not. And so it makes sense that we'd feel all those emotions. Right? We're feeling all those emotions, and the people that we love about, or not love, that we love and care about, right? They're not getting us, right? They're not getting the version of us that they need or deserve. And so we have to find a way to go, gosh, I got this stuff going on and I got all this crap going on. I gotta let that go. And I gotta be who I want to be for them, for myself. And it's a courageous step for a lot of people to be willing to release the past. And so an example, a thought that comes to me, and you guys will learn as we go through this, I've been a trauma therapist for a long time, and so I hear the worst, and I try to be sensitive to, like, not everybody hears the stuff I hear on a regular basis, but this one's a little bit not pretty topic, okay? I remember being at this training, and this woman was presenting, and up on stage, it was really courageous. I've actually seen two different women from the same place talk about similar things, but she just opened up about her past, and there had been sexual abuse. She'd been raped twice, and what was very interesting about this situation, she had done a lot of work on herself and on who she wanted to be. And in front of this audience, she shared this vulnerable stuff. But what the really impressive part was, she's like, I'm not angry about those things happening. She's like, they're not good. I'm not grateful that they happened. But she said, because they happened, it forced me to try to rise to my potential. Like, it kicked my butt. It knocked me out. I was not who I wanted to be, and I had every excuse in the world to be the worst version of myself because I'd been raped, right? I had something taken from me. And she's like, I could have stayed in that dark place and had all the justification in the world to not be my best self. She said, but that's not what I wanted to be. And so I worked past this stuff to the point where I know that it happened and I don't carry the pain from it anymore. She said, I actually am grateful it happened because now where I am, like, I'm where I am now because I had to work really hard to move past that. I've heard that similar type of thing in groups with people struggling with addiction, saying I'm grateful for my addiction because it helped me get closer to God, I've heard people say, or it made me strive harder to be a better, father. Whereas they thought, had I not had this, I might have just stayed mediocre. So, right, perspective is everything, okay? And so I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, and this system that we're working on, this program, we're going to keep working through the emotional states. I've experienced in my own journey different things that have touched on this, but then it was like you learned it and then you never did anything with it. And so really this program, the guided visualizations, the processes, I think there's much more value in taking the time to process through emotional states in the past, learning to get to an empowered state. We're going to revisit anchors, because the goal here is that we address the past, and at the end of this 6 weeks, you're in a spot to look forward to the future. So going back to kind of my hiking analogies, right? And you guys have heard this from me before. Let's say you're climbing out of a pit. Let's say you're out of the pit, you want to climb the mountain, but either way you want to go up, right? And maybe some of you feel incapable. We're going to help with those capabilities. I'm hoping you're beginning to see what you're capable of and what your worth is, and going, I can climb, whether it's climbing out of a pit or climbing to where I want to be, I'm capable. And then, right, you take the backpacking analogy and we're like giving your backpack the equipment and the tools you need, right? And so, right, you got your backpack on, you got your tools, you know you're capable. There's nothing holding you back, right? There's no like ropes tied to your legs, like keeping you in the pit or keeping you from progressing up the path. Okay, that's the vision that I have. Okay, so we're here. We have our pack, we're capable, we have our tools. We still have to step. We still have to walk. We still have to go, create, build. Okay. I love that video I shared the other day from Jocko. What's the step? It's to step, right? And so a lot of people do a ton of work, as I mentioned, to get out of pain, and then they stop. It doesn't even mean that they heal the pain or the patterns, they're just not in the pain. They don't do enough of the healing like we talked about, and they go back. The false lift thing happened, right? So my hope in the course of this 6 weeks is we address the pain of the past. It doesn't mean it will never come up again, but you're going to have tools to go, ooh, something came up. Let me just go handle that. Let me just go deal with that. Now back to a good place. And then life triggers you and go, oh, hey, man, there's still a trigger out there, still an external event that activates me. I know how to deal with that. Train myself so that trigger doesn't trigger me. And the cool thing is, this is kind of a side tangent, right? But if there's 100 different things that can trigger me, what a lot of people do is they're like, okay, I gotta work on this one trigger until it doesn't trigger me. Then I gotta work on this one trigger until it doesn't trigger me, and right? We work on the external stuff, right? In my mind, what works best is to go, I'm gonna work here. I'm gonna work here on this. And so no matter what happens out here, it doesn't mess me up. It doesn't rile me. It doesn't make me go into fear. It doesn't knock me off my game plan, right? Or if it does, not for very long, okay? So coming back into the 6 weeks, you're confident, you feel like a king, and you go, I better start building my kingdom, right? And then the program, the things that we do are meant to help you take steps to build yourself and the different areas we've been talking about, right? Build yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially, but then also to build your relationships, your romantic relationship, your parent-child relationships, your spiritual God relationship, your relationship with money, and your career. And really what we're getting after is your purpose. Right? What's your purpose here? What's your identity? Who are you? And then how do you live from that space? Okay, so hopefully this is the path you guys want to take. Right? There's a lot of men that are fine with mediocrity. I don't think that's who we're trying to attract, is men that are okay with mediocrity. I think we're trying to attract men who have been trying and not getting where they want to go, or men who have been doing well and they want to take it to the next level. So if you have any questions on this, when I post the recording, I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to get your feedback. We're getting close to the end of week 2. I'd love to see how this program is going for you guys so far. And you know, this is a brand new thing, and I have my thoughts of what might make it successful. I'd love your guys' feedback. What do you want? What do you need? How can I help? I'd love for you guys to share that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the release of guilt and shame. This will take us maybe 10, 12 minutes. Okay. And then this video will end, and we'll be mostly through, right? We've done the King's mentality, peak emotional state. We're going to carry that out in the next few days. You're going to start to get in tune with next week. And then we're going to go heavier into what we started yesterday. Okay. Really doing some deep work on the past and its effects. I don't believe that it's done in a 1 15 20 minute thing. I hope you recognize that's not how it works either. So over the next week, let's go after this stuff from the past, the effects of the past. And so, right, you've gotten in tune with it. There's triggers, there's limiting beliefs, there's negative behaviors. Okay, we're going to go after that stuff on a deeper level. Okay. And so as we've done before, just go ahead and sit back. And I hope that you're beginning to enjoy this little bit of time to take your mind where you want it to go. And I want you to think of the area of life you've been working on. I'd like you to think about the emotional states that you've already worked through: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, you've released through. And I want you to bring into your mind this concept of guilt and shame. And in my mind, guilt is kind of that emotional state that signals that we're off course, we're outside of our values. And guilt says, hey, this isn't where you want to be going. You're not doing what you've agreed to. And shame for me is that voice that says we're not good enough, even if we haven't done anything wrong. And so guilt should just be the signal. It's like a red light, green light, right? Guilt hits, red light, hey, stop. You're going down the wrong path. You got to turn around, right? Repair or reconciliation or repentance, right? You're going, hey, I'm off track of my values. I gotta get back on track, okay? Many of you have guilt from the past that you've actually handled. You've reconciled, you've apologized, you've changed, but you still carry that heavy shame because you did something when you were 12 or 15 or 17 or last week, right? You carry the emotional state even though the situation is done. What I want you to do is I want you to take a look at this area of life and go, okay, where's the guilt? What's the guilt telling me? I'm off track. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And recognizing I got the signal, I can let go of the emotion. I don't need the emotion to help me do better. I have my learnings, I have my knowledge. I can go, I can apologize, I can change. Or maybe you recognize the shame there, tying you to your behaviors, right? Defining you, right? For me, for a long time, it was carrying, you're an addict, you're broken, you're a failure, you're not good enough. So I want you to notice these emotional states of guilt and shame. And we're going to release them simultaneously. Asking your unconscious mind, is it okay to release this guilt and shame today and for you to be consciously aware of it? Is there any benefit from this guilt and shame? Any secondary gain? Or maybe you get some sort of nurturing or comfort by being a victim or a martyr. Maybe you beat yourself up with your shame and others have to comfort you and tell you that you're good, right? Noticing any secondary gains from these negative emotional states. And asking yourself, wouldn't it be better to get these gains in some other way? Getting this love or approval based on who you're being rather than how you're acting. What is the root cause of this guilt and shame? The first event, which when disconnected, will allow this emotion to disappear. If you were to know, was it before, during, or after your birth? If it was before, was it from another lifetime? Or was it passed down to you genealogically? If it was during, what month? If it was after, what age were you? I know you don't know, but if you were to know, when was the root cause of this emotional state? Trusting the unconscious mind to give you an answer. And just floating up above your timeline into the past. So you're directly above that event, looking down on it, seeing that younger version of yourself. If you're older than 3, 4, 5, asking the unconscious mind, was there an earlier event? Going back to that early event, looking down on it, noticing the emotions. What is there to learn from this event, the learning of which will allow you to easily and effortlessly let go of the emotion? Now going back to what we've called position B, where you are above your timeline and well before any of the chain of events that led to that event. This puts you before that experience ever happened, and knowing all that you know now. Allow that emotion to disappear. Negative emotion of guilt is simply a signal to let you know you're off course of your own values. Once you got the signal, you no longer need the emotion because you know what to do to repair or get back on course. Shame is the voice of fear, keeping us from reaching our potential. Releasing that shame, recognizing that it doesn't help us be who we want to be, do what we want to do, or have what we want to have. Now go back directly inside that event, looking through your own eyes, and check on the emotion. Is it there, or has it disappeared now? Go back to position B. And just for a moment, check in on your learnings over the past week and a half. What are you learning about your potential, about your purpose, about your identity, about the possibilities, about your capabilities and your lovability? What are you learning about what's important to you, what truly matters? What are you learning about the way you want to spend your time and your energy in this life? Looking towards the future and recognizing all the guilt and shame and how it's gotten in the way. And come back to now along your timeline, letting go of all the guilt and shame on all the events, all the way back to now. You can assume position B before each event, gaining perspective, releasing the emotion, recognizing you no longer need it. It doesn't protect you. It doesn't serve you or help you. The emotion only keeps you in the emotion. Release the emotion so you can be alive. And come back to now along the timeline, only as quickly as you can let go of all the guilt and shame. You can let go of all the guilt and shame. Gather your learnings. Perhaps you're seeing some things you need to do to correct your course, to repair any damage that's been done. Gather that learning and let go of the emotion. Knowing that you can do what needs to be done to get back on course. You can let go of all the guilt and shame on all the events. Coming back towards now. You can continue as long as you need. And then later today, there will be a video about the future. If you're no longer carrying guilt and shame and you know what to do when it comes up. So you can keep going back as long as you want, or you can come back to now. And in a minute, I will end. As you come back to now, begin to notice the emotional states you want to be in, that state of awesomeness. Gaining an awareness of as I go into the future, I want to get back to awesome. And I want to have an awareness as soon as negative thoughts creep in, so I can catch them before they lead to emotions. And sometimes you'll just find yourself in the emotional state. I want to catch and shift the emotions so I get back to awesome. My thoughts are awesome before it goes down to those behaviors I'm trying to avoid, before I get flooded, right? And the beautiful thing is it doesn't matter how far down you go, right? Sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you're going to get flooded and you're going to go down into the destructive stuff. We can creep back up by shifting our beliefs and our emotions and our behaviors. And then we can start to do the work of growth and repair in those different areas of life. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this is valuable. And I encourage you to keep going. Now, I recognize today's video was long, so this guided process will be made available in another format, so you can just get a quick dose of this to repeat. This one on guilt and shame is one of my favorite, but also going back on anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt and shame, and I'll guide you on other emotional states you might be aware of too. So thank you for being here, and we'll keep going.